Hey guys, I'm Adam.
And this is Jamie for RC Auger.
Today we're going to show you how to go through the quick start guide and fully assemble and prepare your Navigator 250 for its first flight.
So let's get into it and show you guys how it's done. So the first step that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to download our iControl Navigator app. You can find this on the Google Play Store and also on the Apple iTunes Store. So go download that and then we can go on to step 2. Step 2 is making sure that your antenna is installed. It should already be on your Navigator when you first pull it out the box, but make sure it's tightened down, and before each flight make sure you fully tighten it. Step 3 talks about unfolding the arms and legs. It actually comes out of the box already done, but we want to show you this process anyway. You're going to want to loosen the nut on top and then unfold the arm, and then also you're going to want to pop the leg out. Make sure that you also tighten the nut back up on the arm so that it's getting ready to go. Do this for each arm and you're ready to go to the next step.
Step 4 talks about charging the battery. First and foremost, you're going to need to locate the battery charger and the correct power supply cord. You need the battery. This is a little balance lead jumper. We're going to show you how to install that. This is for charging. And you'll also notice there's some really nice protective caps here that help you determine whether or not your battery is empty, stored, or full. So those are kind of nice in addition to everything else that comes along with the Navigator. We're going to set the settings first. We have LiPo and Life. We're going to put the charge setting on LiPo, and we're going to set the select amp selector to 3 amps. So now we're going to go ahead and plug the battery into the charger. First and foremost, we're going to locate the balance port on the side of the charger. We're going to use the supplied balance cable and plug it into the correct slot. It'll only go in one direction and it'll only fit in one slot. Next, we're going to plug the positive and negative leads into the front of the charger, just like this. And finally, we're ready to plug the battery in. You're going to notice that there's a little black cap here. This cap protects the balance charging port. So you're going to plug the balance charging plug into the battery, and it only goes in one direction. And you're also going to plug the power and ground lead in as well, and they only go in one direction also. You're going to notice that the charging status LED lights change color, and this indicates that the battery is under charging right now. To follow the correct setup procedure, just keep an eye on the quick start guide, and that will let you know what your battery status is and when it's charged. So the next 3 steps that we're going to talk about are the calibration procedures that need to be completed prior to flying your Navigator 250. The first one is transmitter learning procedure. This is actually done at the factory, but we wanted to go through this step just to make sure that you fully understand what needs to happen in case you ever need to perform it yourself. First and foremost, we have our Navigator with the propellers removed. Whenever you're doing work on the bench, safety first, save a finger, remove the props. We have our transmitter here. We're going to make sure all of our knobs are in the farmost position and all of our switches are upright. We're going to turn the transmitter on, and then we're going to power our Navigator by installing the flight battery. Now, if you install the flight battery for the first time, the LEDs on the back of the Navigator are actually going to be light blue flashing. But because I've already done this procedure, these are actually going to start flashing a dark blue color. So that's one of the things you want to keep in mind. Right now, the Navigator is going through a phase where it's essentially calibrating itself and getting ready to initialize. So again, these will be light blue. Right now they're dark blue. Don't get confused with that. So in order to enter the transmitter learning calibration procedure, we're actually going to take this switch B and flip it 5 times from top to bottom real fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to notice, well, I did that wrong. I did 6. That's okay. We're going to keep going with this process because you might make this mistake too, and it's good that we have it captured. So let's try it again. So 5 times, and you'll notice that the LED has actually changed colors on the rear of the Navigator. That's letting you know that the red LEDs are indicating you're in the transmitter learning phase. So in order to enter that menu, you're going to double flip this switch again. All right, now nothing's happened, but it's actually in that menu now. You'll notice that the LEDs are flashing one tone. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to learn the throttle channel. We're going to move the throttle knob to the bottom and back to the middle again. You're going to hear a beep. Next, we're going to do the rudder. You're going to move the rudder to the left and back to the center again. Next, we're going to do the elevator. You're going to move the elevator forward and back to the center again. And we're going to do the aileron. Move the aileron channel to the left. Now we're going to learn the switches. The first one is switch B. Top, bottom, top. Next, switch C. Top, bottom, top. Next, switch A. Top, bottom, top. And finally, the rotary dial. This is switch VRB. All the way back, all the way over. So you heard that double beep? That indicates that all the transmitter channels have been learned. If you have any questions, you can also reference a quick start guide. Okay, now we're going to talk about the gyro learning procedure, and we're going to enter the menu the same way we did previously to the transmitter learning procedure. You're going to toggle this switch B 5 times. You'll notice that the LEDs have turned red on the Navigator. We want them to see it. We want to turn them green, so we're going to move the switch 1 time up and down. And now we're in the gyro learning menu. To enter the menu, we're going to move the switch 2 times. And you're going to wait for an audible tone. Once you hear the tone, you're going to rotate the Navigator 180 degrees and set it back down on a level table. The gyro learning procedure is now complete. The next step we're going to do is the compass learning procedure. We're going to access the menu the same way we did with the transmitter learning and the gyro learning procedure. You're going to notice that the LEDs are red. That's transmitter learning. We don't want that. We're going to flip the switch 1 time. Now we're in the gyro learning. We don't want that either. We're going to flip the switch again, and we have this magenta color. This is the compass learning procedure. We're going to move the switch 2 times to access the menu, and then we're going to perform a series of rotations that I'm going to do. I'm going to explain them, but also reference a quick start guide in case you get lost. So we have a beep. The first thing we're going to do is pick the unit up and rotate it 2 times forward like this. 2 full front flips. Then we're going to rotate the unit to the right 90 degrees. Now we're going to do 2 side flips. And then we're going to do 2 full 360s like this to the right. The double beep indicates that the compass learning procedure is now complete, and we've got all 3 processes done. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick second here and show you how to navigate through all of the calibration menus using the transmitter. First and foremost is entering the transmitter learning phase. And in order to do that, we're going to flip this switch 5 times. The red indicates that we're in the transmitter learning phase. If I were to flip this switch twice, I'm going to go into that actual calibration procedure. If I flip the switch once, we go on to the next menu, which is the gyro learning phase. That's the green LEDs. If I flip the switch twice here, we go into the gyro learning phase. If I flip the switch once, we go on to the compass calibration. And then if I flip it twice, we actually go into that procedure. Once I'm completed all those procedures, I flip the switch 1 more time, and I'm back out of the menu, and I'm in standard GPS flight mode, ready to fly. One note, the only time you ever need to perform calibrations, such as a compass calibration, is if you travel far distances between where you initially calibrated your compass and the new location you went to. Otherwise, you'll only need to do these procedures once the first time, and you should be good to go. The next step in the quick start guide is installing the propellers. Make sure you reference the guide to make sure that you put the propellers on in the correct orientation. If you put them on backwards, your Navigator is not going to fly. So I already know the direction and location. I'm going to mount the first propeller. I have the screws set. I'm going to use the tool that came with my Navigator and tighten the 2 screws down to secure the propeller tightly. In this particular application, I'm not using it, but we do recommend that you use blue Loctite to fully secure the screws. After all 4 propellers are installed, you can install the optional guards. These are very handy, especially if you're a beginner learning how to fly. There's a small notch underneath the motor pod. You're going to line the guard up and slide it into place. There you go. The next step in the quick start guide references the FPV camera. So first and foremost, we're going to turn the transmitter on, and then we're going to put the flight battery in the Navigator. Make sure that you guide it in the tray properly. you're going to notice that the camera itself goes through a calibration procedure, and then you're going to remove the lens cap as well. Cool thing about this particular camera is when I move the Navigator forwards and backwards, it always stays level with the horizon. This is accurate and works with GPS and sport mode. In the more aggressive acro mode, the camera locks into a fixed position. You can also adjust the camera by turning the VRB knob on the transmitter, and it'll stay at that new set angle of attack. The RC Logger Video FPV goggles and the RCI Navigator 250 go hand in hand with each other. By default, both frequencies are selected identical. If you ever need to change the frequency of the Navigator, let's say you're flying with friends, or maybe you're in an area that has a lot of static, you can change the frequency very easily. First and foremost, you're going to look at the bottom side of the Navigator, and there's an actual frequency chart. Installed underneath the chart itself is the dip switches that can actually change each frequency. So you would go through and change the frequency on the Navigator, and then change the frequency on the FPV goggles to match each other. This is a very important step. Always make sure that your goggles and your video transmitter on the Navigator are operating on the same frequency and they're not interfering with other frequencies in your area. We've pretty much wrapped up all the steps in the Quick Start Guide. However, there's a lot more information to share. Please make sure you take some time and go through the guide carefully. There's important information in here, such as GPS signal strength, LED status indications, additional information about the geofencing and the minimum height control for altitude. These are all really important things. Just take some time, go through the guide, and if you have any questions, you can always find us at support@rclogger.com.